Since last year, everyone has been under the spell of the SARS-CoV-2 virus. Much attention has been paid to mortality rates and the sense and nonsense of measures. What is less clear to most people is that the government measures are part of a much larger web of deception. A web in which evil tries to drag you as an individual. As individuals, we have the choice to choose evil or good for God. Who is behind this agenda? The ones cheating us with SARS-CoV-2 and vaccinations are the big pharmaceutical companies, Bill Gates, the Gavi Institute, and the World Economic Forum. They are cheating the countries. The WHO symbol contains the snake. The Bible begins with the story of Adam and Eve being seduced by the serpent, who deceived them with his crafty words. The serpent was Satan. What is the sign of the pharmaceutical industry? The serpent promised that humans would become as powerful as God. Genesis 3, verse 4 and 5. Then the serpent said to the woman, "You will not surely die, for God knows that in the day you eat of it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil." What is the purpose of the World Economic Forum and Klaus Schwab? An emergence of their physical body into a transhumanistic body. This is also referred to as the Fourth Industrial Revolution. With the help of nanobots, vaccines, and genetic modification, the creation of God is being intervened so that man will rise above creation. Films like Transcendence work towards the singularity, a phase in which all knowledge is bundled and humanity will transcend creation. The old duality of God's creation would then have been replaced by singularity. This is the goal behind the COVID madness, lockdowns, and vaccination agenda. The serpent has always been the symbol of Satan, the deceiver in Genesis. Now, in the end times, we again see that the snake in the WHO logo is deceiving us. Also in Greek mythology, where this snake comes from, the snake is a deceiver. In Revelation 18, verse 23, it says about Babylon, the great city that will be destroyed, "For your merchants were the great men of the earth, for by your sorcery all the nations were deceived." If we look at the original Greek translation, we see that pharmakia has been translated with sorcery. Pharmakia has several meanings in Greek, including sorcery and medication. So in this case, it should have said, "Through your use of drugs or vaccines, all nations were deceived." Which city has all the great merchants of the earth? Isn't that New York, where Wall Street resides? And isn't New York also the headquarters of the UN? Do you also know that New York and the UN are the headquarters of Lucis Trust, former Lucifer's Trust? Lucis Trust preaches the new NWO UN world religion. How did we humans get caught up in this deception? That too is mentioned in Revelation. And he deceives those who dwell on the earth by those signs which he was granted to do in the sight of the beast, telling those who dwell on the earth to make an image to the beast who was wounded by the sword and lived. He was granted power to give breath to the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause as many as would not worship the image of the beast to be killed. The people worship the image of the beast. How are people being cheated right now? Right, by means of the TV screen. For hours and days people are watching the TV, in which they absorb the propaganda that the beast spews on them. Constant propaganda of fear and pressure to take the COVID vaccine. Hypnotized by the words of the beast, they lock themselves up, turn on their fellow man, and live in fear. Who is the beast? Revelation names two beasts. In the Bible, empires are symbolized by beasts, as described in the book of Daniel. In Daniel, 4 beasts are spoken about. The first one is a lion and stands for Babylon. The second is a bear and stands for Persia. The third is a leopard and stands for Greece. The fourth is a terrible beast and represents the Roman Empire. This Roman Empire will encompass the whole world. The Roman Empire did not cease to exist. Roman emperors had the title Pontifex Maximus, and that title still exists. The current Pope also has the title Pontifex Maximus. Revelation tells us about the harlot of Babylon, dressed in purple and scarlet. And I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast, which was full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. The woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet, and adorned with gold and precious stones and pearls, having in her hand a golden cup full of abominations and the filthiness of her fornication. Here is the mind which has wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sits. Rome was built on 7 hills. East of the Tiber you can find the remains of the 7 hills on which the city was built. From the original Bible text, the word oros is translated as mountain, but the word can mean both mountain and hill. The raw material for purple dye was extremely expensive, and purple clothing was preserved only for wealthy Romans, and, in Jesus' time, only for the emperors of Rome. The Pope still often dresses in purple, and his seconds in scarlet. The Pope has placed himself on the throne of God by forgiving people instead of God, and thus the Pope rules over people instead of people communicating directly with Jesus and God. We now also see that the Pope is waging a fierce campaign for vaccinations, promoting cells from aborted fetuses in vaccines. The Vatican has shaped her audience hall in Rome like a snake, and in the background she shows a devil's beast. The Pope is also present at the annual meeting of the World Economic Forum. The Vatican also has partnerships with the Rothschilds. That has been the case for much longer, but now it has become more public. The Rothschilds are a very important banking family that wielded and continues to have great influence in the world. Many refer to them as the Vatican bankers. In wars, they funded both sides and manipulated financial markets to their advantage. The Rothschilds largely own the weekly The Economist, a leading financial magazine that propagates the views of banking elites and often provides surprisingly accurate predictions. Every year they come up with a cover sheet that shows forecasts for the following year. This is also the case in autumn 2018 of 2019. On this cover page, we see the DNA helix as a temporary tattoo on an arm, a baby with a barcode, but also the 4 horsemen of Revelation. When we zoom in, we see that the second horseman is wearing a mask. The 4 horsemen are described in Revelation 6, and I looked, and behold, a white horse. He who sat on it had a bow, and a crown was given to him, and he went out conquering and to conquer. The first rider is described as a rider wearing a crown. Corona is a Latin word. This word means crown. The first horseman has a bow, but no arrows, and goes out to conquer the nations. We see that COVID-19 is not as bad as suggested. Of course, people die, but there's no killer virus. Arrows are therefore missing. COVID-19 is primarily a tool of anxiety. The media is bowing to humanity, but in reality there are no arrows. Through fear, the nations are subjugated into the new world order of the UN and the WHO. The second horseman has a mask on and is therefore an extension of the first horseman. The second horseman also has a kind of crown in the picture that looks like the Statue of Liberty. Another horse, fiery red, went out, and it was granted to the one who sat on it to take peace from the earth, and that people should kill one another, and there was given to him a great sword. What are we seeing in the US right now? There is a huge battle between Republicans and Democrats who cannot stand each other. The Democratic Party is pushing for additional COVID measures, such as wearing masks, and the Republican states want more freedom. We also see that people are fleeing states with strict COVID measures to states with more freedom. The combination of a federal government that imposes more and more freedom-restricting measures and a very heavily armed population is a very explosive combination. The third horseman indicates inflation of food and drinks. Come and see. So I looked, and behold, a black horse, and he who sat on it had a pair of scales in his hand. And I heard a voice in the midst of the 4 living creatures saying, "A quart of wheat for a denarius, and 3 quarts of barley for a denarius, and do not harm the oil and the wine." A denarii equates to a labourer's day's wages. Worldwide we see farmers being forced by governments to sell their fields and cows. This is in line with the UN 2030 agenda and the elite philosophy of the World Economic Forum, in which we are expected to own nothing by 2030, but still be happy. This agenda is promoted under the guise of Build Back Better, which is repeated by almost all heads of state.
A chance to reset the clock and build back better than before.
To build back better.
Build back better.
Building back better.
Build back better.
Build it back better.
Build it back better.
Build back better.
Build back better.
Building this country back better.
Build back better.
Building back better.
I would say to build back better.
Build back better.
Come, I will show you the judgment of the great harlot who sits on many waters, with whom the kings of the earth committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth were made drunk with the wine of her fornication. The fourth horseman represents death. Hunger, vaccine disease, and war will cause many deaths. The United States and United Nations play an important role in the current situation. The US and the UN are therefore the second beast of Revelation. The moment the first beast appeared to be mortally wounded, the second beast emerged from her. Then I saw another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb, and spoke like a dragon, and he exercises all the authority of the first beast in his presence, and causes the earth and those who dwell in it to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. Under Napoleon's rule, the Pope was taken hostage, and the land was taken from the Vatican. The beast appeared to be mortally wounded, but recovered. It was not coincidental that at this time the United States was founded. The American population consisted primarily of Protestants who had fled Europe from the tyranny of the Roman Catholic churches and from poverty. Hence, horns are described as of a lamb. The lamb is Christ, and the followers of Christ were the foundation of America. The U.S. Constitution is therefore partly based on Protestant principles, such as self-determination. The Roman Catholic Church always strived for world domination, and the freedoms of Protestants were a thorn in her side. The independence of the United States was therefore hijacked from the start by evil forces allied to Rome. The Washington, D.C. area was called New Rome before it was called Washington, D.C. This new capital was born of Virginia and Maryland, or born of the Virgin Mary. Virginia, Virgin, Maryland, Mary. The veneration of Mary plays an important role in the Catholic Church. This stems from the Roman goddess of fertility. The UN was founded from New York with the help of the Rockefellers, but is in fact part of this second beast, and therefore operates from the US. Revelation 13, verse 13. He performs great signs, so that he even makes fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men, like a nuclear bomb. We then read that this beast has all people, young and old, rich and poor, slave and free, put a mark on their right hand or forehead. Only people with a mark can buy or sell anything. Then it becomes even more clear that this vaccination agenda is part of the mark of the beast agenda. In the near future, vaccinees with a digital vaccination passport will be distinguished from non-vaccinated people. This system is not watertight. Fraud can occur if doctors want. The system to prevent this is already in place. MIT DARPA has developed a non-visible type of plaster that can be applied into the skin. A vaccination can be placed via this patch, but vaccinations can also be mixed with a liquid that causes this patch to light up at a time when UV radiation falls on it. The substance that makes this possible is called luciferase, after Lucifer, in whose name this agenda is being rolled out. This system can and will be further developed with variables such as heart rate and hormone balance. In this way, people's emotions can be monitored and controlled. The next step is to link a blockchain payment system. The patent for this payment system has been registered by Microsoft under WIPO patent number 2020-060606. If people do not cooperate, they will be excluded from payments, as all payments will be made through this blockchain. He causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hand or on their foreheads, and that no one may buy or sell except one who has the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man. His number is 666. The number 666 is found in several American high-tech companies, but according to the Bible, it is the number of a man, the Pope. In several ways, titles for the Pope in Greek or Latin numerals can be attributed to 666. The best known is Vicarius Vili Dei, or Deputy of Son of God. This blasphemous title is also on one of the Pope's crowns. It is now up to each individual to choose for the beast and its sign, or for God and created life and creation as God. Those who choose not to be vaccinated will be excluded and persecuted, but will ultimately be chosen by God. Those who choose the sign of the beast will develop evil and painful sores, according to Revelation 16, verse 2. So the first went and poured out his bowl upon the earth, and a foul and loathsome sore came upon the men who had the mark of the beast, and those who worshipped his image. Our bodies are not made for mRNA vaccines that cause genetic modification. They will suffer the plagues of the wrath of God. It is everyone's choice whether or not to accept the mark of the beast. Please feel free to copy and spread this video, complete and unedited, on your own channel with reference to the original channel.